Ahmed Kaballo, who's a Sudan affairs analyst and founder of African Stream Media. Ahmed, thank you very much for your time. You will have seen this, I believe. Tom Perriello is the US Special Envoy for Sudan. This is the quote from him. He says, "I think the worst case scenario in Sudan is a 20 to 25-year version of Somalia on steroids." He says the speed with which this conflict could go from a two-sided war to a 7 or 8-sided war where neighboring countries are pulled in is immense. I mean, this thing is becoming more and more serious, and there's no end in sight, is there?
Exactly. There is no end in sight. Both sides seem determined to fight until they get a military victory. But because of the size of both of the fighting forces, that military victory doesn't seem any closer. The Sudanese army is approximately 150,000 men, which is extended now because they've asked civilians to take up arms. The Rapid Support Forces is around 100,000 men, but they're getting extra supplies from neighboring countries like Chad and Libya. So these are huge personnel armed to the teeth by regional forces, Egypt backing the Sudanese armed forces, the UAE backing the Rapid Support Forces. And, you know, the negotiations, they've been hosted in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia. The US has tried to get involved. Regional bodies, Ethiopia, Kenya has tried to get involved. IGAD. It hasn't brought anything. It hasn't brought any respite for the Sudanese people. It's close to 9 million people displaced, the largest displaced people anywhere on the planet. They're saying 15,000 people have been killed. It's a woeful, woeful underestimation. At least 30,000. Some are saying 50, 60,000 people have probably been killed. But because there's no one to document who is being killed and when they're being killed, we don't know. We're just hearing terrible stories. The story that you started this segment with that happened in Al Jazeera state. They say 104 people, could rise up to 150 people, were killed at one time, including 21 people, or maybe even 22 people of one family killed, who then are going to be buried in a mass grave. It's just atrocious. Humanitarian organizations can't get food and aid in. The food and aid that is coming in is being weaponized by the Rapid Support Forces. This community, allegedly, was attacked because they didn't want the Rapid Support Forces to come into their village, because the Rapid Support Forces, when they go into the villages, they loot, they steal, they rape. So they were trying to protect their village. So the Rapid Support Forces said, okay, you want to play that game? And they shelled them, killing them from a distance. So the Sudanese people are at the mercy of this genocidal outfit, which is being backed by the United Arab Emirates, where there's been little to no international pressure on the UAE to stop supplying arms, to stop supplying funds to the Rapid Support Forces. And now the Sudanese people are left for the Sudanese army to defend them. But at the moment in Darfur, the Rapid Support Forces control 4 out of the 5 states. And they look like they're about to consolidate their control on the last state in North Darfur.
Yeah,
so it's a really dire situation. And we really, really do need international support.
Okay, let's also highlight what's happening in the city of Al-Fasher in the west in Darfur, because it's a stronghold of the Sudanese armed forces. There are probably about 3 million people living there because the numbers have swelled as they try to escape fighting elsewhere. But the RSF paramilitary has completely surrounded Al-Fasher, and there are great fears of what it's been doing in Darfur, mass rape, allegations of torture, all of that they will do again in Al-Fasher. The question I want to ask you is, these allegations and accusations of war crimes and genocide, do they make a peace much more difficult? Because everybody will have to be held accountable, and accountability is not what someone who commits a crime wants to see.
It's a very strong point. As these crimes begin to list, we just over the last few days, if I could just run you through some of the stories that we've heard, the Sudanese diaspora. At Ahmed University, where my father used to teach, a student was allegedly, tortured, kidnapped, most likely raped, but then killed. There's a mosque in Omdurman, which has been turned into a sex dungeon where women are taken against their will, raped, tortured, and then killed. You've mentioned Al Fasher, which is the capital of North Darfur. Like I said, it's the final state in Darfur that it's not under RSF control, but it looks like it will be a matter of days before it is. The rest of the places where the rapid support forces do control, there's been ethnic cleansing against the Masali tribe and non-Arab tribes. There's been looting of houses. If I could just tell you about my own experience. My father was in Bahri, North Khartoum, which is a stronghold at the moment of the RSF. His house was looted. His car was stolen. He was beaten up with the butt of a gun. The whole house was ransacked. And he's just one of many. So yes, you're right. The rapid support forces are not going to want this war to end and then they're to be held
All right.
accountable. There have been crimes committed by the Sudanese armed forces as well. Let's not forget the Sudanese armed forces created the rapid support forces, and what we're seeing right now is the terrible story of the Frankenstein monster that's gone out of control and is basically destroying everything in sight.
Ahmed, thank you so much for spending time with us. Really appreciate hearing both the personal side and also the professional analysis. Take care.